back again. Michael Palladini, aka MacGyver, to all my YouTube friends. Now, in our last video on the 1998 Ford F-150, you saw where we had gotten the new rotors and drums and all that. The bearings are still good, so we're going to clean those up and repack them. That's why we have us a little parts washer here. And you can see that's all the hooky grease. Looks nasty, but it's actually okay. There's it got a little thinned out from being overheated, but it didn't damage the bearings or anything, so we're going to go with it. And I'll examine them more closely when I get them cleaned up. So we're going to just pop these in here and start washing them up. And get them all nice and spiffy clean, and I'll show them to you when we're done. Alright, so now we're back, and our bearings are all nice and cleaned up. We'll get ready to dry them off and pack them with some fresh grease. I always keep my bearings separated from one side to the other. And of course, once we wash them out, clean them out in the parts washer, we want to blow all the cleaning fluid out of them. And don't be a moron like some people out there that they'll sit there and blow the bearing and spin it, and it makes a really cool, you know, zzz sound, you know, like the old toy you used to play with. The only problem is it turns the wheel bearing into a grenade, and then all the rollers fly out, and next thing you know, you're waking up dead. So always hold the outer race. That's all you really need to do with it. Now, I'm all about old school, you know. I've done the bearing packing thing where you put your grease in there and you go like that. You know, that's the way we've done it for years. And I'm not averse to doing that, but you know, I'll also embrace technology and use bearing packer. And this is about the best one out there that you can get, and it will force the grease through the bearing, and it does a very good job of packing your bearings properly. So you don't. Last thing you want to do is have one of these run dry on you, and you end up on the side of the road. It gives you a nice flow of grease all the way through the bearing, and then when you're ready to put it in the race, then you add a little more grease, wrap some grease around it, pack some that one. The outer, we'll do the inner. Squeeze that one. A nice even flow of grease all through it. Not to mention, it's a lot less messy. Oh, isn't that pretty? Got it all nice and smooth, spinning real pretty with everything nice and clean. Get all our excess grease out of here. Got the nice new little cap on there with no holes in it. That's always a good thing. And now we can start mounting the caliper back on. Alright, one thing that most home mechanics don't pay attention to, and sadly enough, I've seen a lot of shops do the same thing. You got your little squealer tab on the brake pad. It's designed to start dragging against the rotor, kind of like your fingers across a chalkboard when the brake pads wear down, to prevent you from going metal to metal and damaging your rotors. But these pads go in on a particular side because you want the pad with the squealer to have the direction of the rotor going away from the tab. And if you put them in backwards, then the rotor will push this way and they won't squeal. So you always, like in this case here, when the pad goes on the rotor, you want the little squeaker thing on the very top, and that gives you that same action as the fingers going across the chalkboard. Now if you were to move your fingers the other way, the effect isn't the same, and the same applies here. So it's another little useless tidbit of information for you. Alright, so we've got the front end pretty well wrapped up. We just have to bleed the brakes and or bleed the front brakes here. That's all wrapped up. Now I'm starting to work on the back here, where we're gonna, in order to change that axle seal, we have to remove the entire axle shaft. It has to come out this way. In order to do that, what we have to do here, of course I've pulled the rear cover off and drained the gear oil out, and which look good and clean, by the way, so there's no we don't have any impending doom in here. But this is what's called a C-clip axle, and the axle shafts are retained with a C-clip in there. So what we have to do is we have to remove that center pin where the spider gears are, and once that pin pops out, then the axle shaft will push in a little bit, enough for us to pop out these little C-clips in there. You can just barely see them. So what I'll have to do, there's a little through bolt right there. We'll have to take that out, and then that pin will pop out, and that'll allow us to remove our axles. So okay, so I'm holding the drive shaft here and I'm pulling this pin out. Now you have to get to a point where you can break the thing loose but still be able to get your ratchet out of there. Okay, I'm going to move the camera back so you can see me pulling the axle shafts out and so forth. We'll see how all that goes. I've got the pin almost all the way out. Pull that out there. Down in here. Turn this. Pop out. Just enough, like that. Then I can push this axle shaft in. Remove the C-clip. Once I pop that C-clip out of there, there's that's what we call the C-clip right there. Just lay that there so it's out of harm's way. And then over here, so we don't catch any drippage here. That is one show you. Okay, that's where you got your seal and your axle bearing riding right there. And this isn't too bad really, but we're going to use that repair bearing anyway. Make it a nice clean repair job. So alrighty, now we're gonna pop the bearing out of the axle housing here. It's pressed in, so we'll use one of these. Reaches in behind there and grabs the bearing. Watch, we don't smash our finger. We'll gently pop that puppy out of there. Makes life so much easier when you have the right tool for the job. And that's the axle bearing there, and it just rides directly on the axle, and then the seal sits over yonder. And I'm going to show you the difference and give you a little instruction sheet with these. And what this is a composite assembly that contains the bearing, okay, and the seal all together. All right, and what it does is it relocates the sealing surface and adds an extra protection on the inside. And then this just goes right in there like so, and we'll press that in, and that'll be it. So, but we're not going to do this just yet. We're not going to insert this one just yet because we're going to clean this whole backing plate and everything off. So hang tight and you'll see how we do that. Alright, so what we got here, a little portable parts washer, which I'm about to plug in and crank up here in a minute. But we're going to go ahead and break all this down, get it out of the way, and brake springs off here. Hardware is still good, fortunately. Whatever happened to my brake spring tool, but it's floating around here somewhere. But it works just as good. And that. Disgusting gear oil soaked brake pads. I see what happens is that'll make this one brake really grabby. So I imagine whoever had this truck before, if they've ever had to slam on the brakes, this one wheel would lock up all the time. Hardware will pop down in here so we can wash it real good. Parking brake cable. Ew, nasty. Let me go to my extension cord. really nice roll around parts washer you can get from Northern Tool, and you get it on sale for about $100 if you're lucky, catch it on sale. So we're going to break this down and use our little brush and clean all this gook off of here. So that'll be our next step. Okay, so now our backing plate looks all nice and spiffy clean, and our new bearings installed in there, and we're going to slide this axle back in after we hang our brake pads and or brake shoes and everything, and we're getting back together with her.